Matt is a spiritual teacher, empathic healer, and best-selling author of the books Whatever Arises, Love That, and Everything is Here to Help You. Matt's star has definitely been rising in recent years with his rapidly growing YouTube following that are finding the unique support and perspectives he offers to help them feel more loved, more awakened, and open to the greatest possibility life has to offer. Give it up for Matt Kahn, everyone. Mr. Matt Kahn,
Yes,
such
sir.
a pleasure, my friend.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
It's
thanks
an
for
honor.
coming. So we have, 45 minutes-ish maybe or
Okay.
so. It's like, what questions do I throw at this guy who
My
has
God.
so much to say? How do I get the best out of him?
I don't know.
Why don't we start with a little bit of backstory?
Okay.
I know, for some people, you're new experience, and
Yeah.
you have a pretty interesting backstory. So why don't you give us a little perspective there?
Sure. So my spiritual journey began when I was 8 years old. I went to sleep one night thinking I was dreaming, and only when I fell back in my body did I realize I was out of my body. And I went to this most beautiful garden with colors that were overflowing with a vibration of love I'd never known before. I've had a very loving family, but this was a love that was on a different level. And when I was growing up in the 80s, it was a very common theme. Like the whole campaign during the 80s was don't talk to strangers. Kids were kidnapped. And as a kid, that was actually my biggest fear, is being taken away from my family. And the first moment in this garden, I said to myself, I don't know where I am, but I'm safe. And I had never had that experience.
Wow.
And when I was moving through this garden with this most glorious love overflowing in every direction, I found myself moving through a field of waist-high flowers. And I could feel my body moving through the brush. Then I realized I was moving through the brush and simultaneously hovering above at the same time.
Wow.
I did not know how I was doing that or how it was happening, but the love was so immense, it didn't matter. And then about 10 feet in front of me, there was a being in a white robe and dark hair and a dark beard, and motioned me towards him. And I didn't know who this being was, but the love was so resonant that I felt safe and like I was in the presence of a guide, a friend, some relative. And as I was being motioned towards him, I didn't move. Then I started floating towards him. And I got as close as I am to you, with white, pure light pouring out of this being's eyes. And for some reason at that age, I thought of Halloween movies when people roll their eyes and back, up on their head.
Right.
And as I thought that, it broke the state. I fell out of the garden, through the sky, and back in my body.
Wow.
And I'm in my body, in my bedroom, sweating and shivering at the same time.
Wow.
And out of the corner of my eye, I saw the same being in this chalky white energetic material motion me towards him. I look,
Wow.
it disappeared.
Wow.
So the next day, I go to my friend's house, and I look on their wall, and there's a painting of a man, and I go, that's who I met last night. And my friends are like, Matt, you did not meet Jesus. Right? Like, you're raised Jewish, you're not allowed. You're bar mitzvahed.
Right.
It's been, the lines have been made clear. I said, look, I don't know what the big deal is, but that's who I met. And it was the time in my life I began having these knowings without knowing why I knew what I knew.
Right.
And I would have angels walking with me, and I would, in my peripheral vision, see angelic beings walking with me. From the age I was, from like middle school through high school, I didn't have many spiritual experiences. I was just enjoying the adventures of ego land and going through the most awkward phases of human existence.
It's a rite of passage.
God, it's so delicious, isn't it? Isn't it amazing to be the divine in awkward teenage form? Isn't that amazing, guys?
Divine with too much acne.
Oh my God.
My story.
That's. Let's hope that's not like on the high reel in the Akashic Records. Like, can we delete me and MC Hammer Pants with the bleach blonde? Anyway. So when I was like in my 20s, my guide started speaking to me. And I would sit in my bedroom of my parents' house, and every day I'd meet a different ascended master archangel. And I only have learned daily. Today I'm talking to Archangel Michael, but the love from the garden was there, so I opened up to it. And if it wasn't for the love, I probably wouldn't have taken it too seriously. And I've always had this healthy ability to be open to experiences and at the same time have that healthy part of you that goes, and I might be crazy.
Right.
And there's that. And I have probably ingested a lot of fluoride. So who knows? And they would talk to me and they'd give me teachings about the universe. And it was really how I was developing and attuning my psychic abilities of seeing, hearing, and feeling. When I'm talking to beings in different dimensions, I hear them as clearly as I'm talking to you.
Wow.
And today I'm meeting Archangel Michael, then it was Kuan Yin, then it was Melchizedek, my main guide, and Jesus. And I just started to feel like this is what I thought school was going to be.
Right.
This kind of education. And then it led to eventually, they turned up the heat, and I was in a grocery store, and they said, hey, we want you to go over to that person and deliver this message. And so I went up to this person, I said, hey, we're in the produce aisle. You don't know me, I don't know you, I have to tell you something. And they broke into tears, and it transformed their lives. I had no idea what I was doing. Then I was guided to go into a spiritual bookstore, and they said, tell them about your experience. And I said, hey, why do I see purple energy around me? Mm-hmm. They said, you should take our psychic development course. So I took the psychic development course. Week 3, they said, can you teach it? I'm a student. No, I'm learning this. They said, can you do a reading? What's a reading? And they sat me down. They said, read this person. I don't know what you're talking about. And literally, and boom, and just did it. So I never knew this was all within me. And I started doing readings. I started realizing I had the ability to help people heal. And I was taught ways to heal and work with people that as I talked to more people in the field, was seen to be as not the way things work. And when I first came into this field, I was kind of, felt like an outcast. I came in here to meet all my psychic superhero friends.
Right.
And it just, I thought either I'm onto something or I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I, over the course of the years, have helped a lot of people, a lot of specifically empaths, to really achieve all levels of spiritual expansion and integration and healing. But my specific gift as an empath allows me to transmit energy as I'm talking to you. Mm-hmm. So as I'm talking, there's an energy you can feel that comes through me to give you a direct experience of what's being said, not just to believe what I'm saying. Because it's just it's a pointer to your own realization. Right. And through that, all of my teachings are always the most loving way and the most heart-centered way to approach anything. And from that, I've developed my own way of helping people to really expand, to grow, to go through this ascension process and really support humanity in this global awakening, but in the most loving way, in the most heart-centered way, because as I've learned, and as you'll learn, if you don't do the most loving approach, it's not going to work. Right. It's going to be a state change for half a second, and then that thing's going to come back. And what I really represent is an opportunity to be free of the antagonistic and adversarial spiritual path where we are judging lower vibration in favor of high vibration. We are in a good state, and oh my God, there's that person, you're gonna knock me out of my good state. Get the heck away from me. Right. And all this superstitious, fear-based stuff. So I've come to this planet to help absolve the world of fear and superstition so we can anchor the vibration of oneness in the most heart-centered way. Thank you. Thank you.
Couldn't you have done something interesting, Matt?
I know, right? Well, you know, when I was a kid, this is a funny story. When I was in kindergarten, my parents got called into my kindergarten teacher's office for a meeting, and she was worried about me. And my teacher says, I'm really worried about your son, Matthew. Matthew at the time, right? Which is what I hear if I'm in trouble. Right. Matthew. And there's pictures on the wall of all these kids. Johnny's going to be an attorney, and Susie's going to be in the NASA program. And there's a picture of me, and my parents go, that's interesting. So they called me in because they said, our son probably has a reason for this. Mm-hmm. They said, Matthew, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, I want to be the garbage man. And they said, why? And I said, because he only works on Fridays. Because I thought he only works one day a week. And they said, no, Matthew, on other streets. And I said, forget it. I ran out. So what I do is awesome.
You're kind of like the garbage man.
I'm kind of like the garbage man. Isn't that funny? I helped clear all the garbage.
Right.
So it turns out, right?
Careful what you wish for.
Hey, be careful with that vision boarding. That's amazing.
I love the. I can't say I've read the book. But
Yeah.
I love the title of your book. I think it's the only person that I quote the title of a book.
Which one?
Whatever arises, love that.
Thank you.
It's so good. I mean, it's like, do I even need to read anything else? It's like, it just says it all. Like,
You know what's
says like
amazing? If you buy the book and only read the title, you get it all. It's magic. It's amazing. Cliff Notes. True story. You know, it's funny. You know, that's a saying that came through me one day. In fact, I remember I was walking, I used to live outside of Seattle. And at that time in my career, I was this person, this light worker who was like ready to heal, ready to get to work. No one knew who I was, and I didn't know what to do with my life. Like, I'm ready to serve. What do you do? And I decided that I'm going to go out and spend my day blessing people. Like, if no one's calling the light worker is going to go to people. And I would walk around just blessing people, and I would ask the universe, my dialogue, I would say, bring me the teaching I will bring to the world. And I was told 4 words: whatever arises, love that. And my connection with the universe is so direct, I often don't ask for clarification. I want to feel it out myself. So I said, let's just take this so obviously. So I'd walk down the street, and a bird would arise. I love you. Whatever arises, love that. There was a worker with a jackhammer. Oh, that startled me. Love you. I thought, I guess this is how it works. And then as I took it deeper, what I realized that it's not whatever arises out here, love that. It's whatever arises within your experience, love that one life is happening to. And I began to download a process where, with no intention of avoidance, we are actually here in a transmutation process where it's not about clearing things and getting away from things, because that's avoidance. It's about changing your relationship with the things that arise within you. And as you are respecting its divinity, no matter how it appears or acts, you are returning it to its original innocence and form, as if we are the doorways of light to heaven, and we are forgiving everything that arises and sending it back to source. So I began to see that love was the ultimate transmuter, and that our job is to truly love ourselves through what happens. Because to say, like, oh, I had this bad thing happen and I love that, no, you don't.
Right.
You know, authentically, you don't have to like anything in order to love the one it happens to. So I teach a very authentic way of, wow, don't I deserve love in a moment like this? Wow, this really sucks. Don't I deserve more love, not less? So it's a process in which we learn that as we love ourselves more, it elevates our self-worth. Once we elevate our self-worth, we become better receivers. When you translate self-worth on a vibrational level, that's what we call a high vibration. So high vibration is not about trying to be in this ultra crazy state, rolling around the ground, or whatever people, you know. High vibration is when you reach a level of infinite resilience and ever expanding grace. And it's the high vibration that just reflects to you your self-worth, or how many parts of you have been loved instead of denied.
Wow.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Infinite resilience.
Infinite resilience. And when you're infinite resilient, you know that the love you attract is one day going to be the love that goes. But when you're an infinitely resilient being, you go, I'm going to love, I'm going to lose, and I'm going to go through the grief cycle, and I'm going to be an even better version of myself. And a truly enlightened being knows that love and loss connection, and knows that they can go through it. They're so infinitely resilient that they know, I'm going to lose, and I'm going to dare to love anyway. That's true enlightenment. Enlightenment says, you're going to lose this, good, and it's going to make me better, and I'm going to go for it. I have loved, I have lost. And what it has taught me is that when love will come knocking on my door again, I will love more. And I will lose harder, and I will be better until the day it's time to go to the next level.
Right.
Yeah.
I love that. And, you know, I often say, you've got to be willing to have your heart broken.
Gotta be willing.
1,000 times. If it's for that 1,001st time that, is what so many people, as soon as their heart's broken, oh, I knew it. This is too dangerous. It's too risky.
dangerous.
I'm going to shut down. I'm going to play it safe. And then the whole reason for being here is lost,
That's right.
And so what you're saying is such a, the far end of that, and it's so brilliant and true and powerful, and wow.
We incarnated from heaven because heaven is where true safety is. And that was boring, wasn't it?
Right.
One day you go, I can materialize it. Oh, I would like mountains. Bloop, bloop, mountains.
Yep.
Now that's really cool to be able to do with no time in heaven. But after a while, your own miraculous nature is like a yawn.
Yep.
And you go, you know what, I want to have this happen, but I want to experience it so slowly in the dimension of time that I get to see how things that are already meant to be actually unfolded. So we actually come here for the narrative. Everything in our lives on some level is predetermined. The reason we desire or think we're creating anything is because your intuition is calling forward what's already about to happen.
Right.
And that really the free will of this destiny is things are going to happen the way they happen. Our job in free will is to decide the reason why we do each and everything, which determines our vibration, our perception, and how high of a consciousness we cultivate from one lifetime to the next.
Ooh. Yeah.
So when we decide, I'm going to do this because I love myself. Not, in my life, I've recently gotten extremely healthy. And I've always been striving for health. And I've known, honestly, that I know what I'm here to do health-wise. But it was like, I should do this. And I had to wait till it was a desire. Like, I now desire health.
Right.
So when I look at my options, it's just, this is what I want.
Right.
And so I had to wait until it was of a desire so that the reason can be, I'm doing this not because I'm trying to impress the universe. I'm going to get a bag of goodies for impressing my guides. I had to wait until I'm doing this because I love myself enough. And so for all of us, the reason why you do everything is truly what will be the journey of your life. And when you're doing everything in the name of love for yourself or another, the quality of the experience changes, and you start to access parallel dimensions where different circumstances arise in perception.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
Thank you.
It's everything. I mean, it really is everything. Once you understand, your latest book, Everything is Here to Help You.
Would you only read the title, right?
Only the title.
That's sweet.
I now can just download them instantly.
I love that. It's like an app or something. It's amazing.
Let's talk about the latest book.
Yeah, Everything is Here to Help You. It's an amazing book because I always knew and I've taught that everything is here to help us, not hurt us. But I wanted to be very specific and go, okay, how is all these specific things here to help you? How is anger here to help you? Because when you are living from the vibration of love, everything is like a gauge in your spiritual vehicle, right? Like if you said, oh my God, the light in my car, my dash is so annoying, I wish I could unplug it. But without that light, you don't know when it's time to fill your car with gas.
Right.
And if you unplug that signal, you go, oh, thank God I don't get bugged by that. Then your car is going to stall at a certain point.
Right.
So every single thing that arises within us, from anger to fear to sadness, is actually a very positive light on the dashboard of your spiritual vehicle. We just have not been taught how to read the owner's manual, because the owner's manual is translated through our intuition. So I wrote a book on basically creating an owner's manual for the soul's journey on how is everything literally here to help us become embodied souls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you share some insights for those of us who haven't read it?
My God, I have to. And what's funny is we're calling things that I wrote a couple. It's so funny, like we're calling it. But for example, anger, and whether anger arises in you, and for most of us as empaths, anger arises in other people you're relating to. Anger is our nervous system's way of telling us, whoever is angry. The one who is angry is saying, I am in such a state of imbalance. I need peace, solitude, and silence to integrate what's happening energetically. And most people who need silence and solitude don't want to be alone.
Right.
So when you are witnessing someone being angry, that's their soul's way of saying, I can't meet you in presence because I need to recharge and I don't know it. So when you're with someone who's angry, you just say, I understand that you might need some time alone to process as per this anger. That is
Gave it away.
being projected or vomited onto me. I'm sure you feel amazing. I, on the other hand, having a different experience. So I'm going to leave now and leave you alone. And they say, oh, I don't need to be alone. Well, that's why we're in this situation. And we're going to give someone what they need, not with spite, not with negativity. We're not going to wait for anyone's permission because most people don't know what they need. They just know what they want. So we have to interpret, oh, wow, the anger is letting me know this person can't meet me in an equal space. When we get emotionally triggered, that's saying we're not in a place to meet people in an equal playing field of presence. We need to recharge before we can come out and be our best. So we just learn the signals of self-care. What do I need? More rest, greater nutrition. Am I hydrated? Do I need to be away from people? And for a lot of us, we have a fear of being without others, and yet it's in that solitude that we actually do the greatest integration of the healing journey we're already on.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of times with, there's so many people who are just anything not to be alone. Who wants to date me? Just don't let me, turn on the TV. I'm listening to Fox News while I sleep or whatever it is, just like background noise. And there's so many people that are just very scared of being alone.
I'm single too, by the way.
Yeah. and he'll take any of you, so he doesn't have to be alone. Teaching Beth what he most needs to learn. Let's talk about resolving fear.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Resolving fear. You know what's interesting is when fear arises in your energy field, it's a signal coming from your nervous system. And it is a signal that says, contrary to what your mind wants to move towards, fear is your nervous system's way of saying you are going towards something that your innocence is not ready to handle. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. It means you have to have a conversation with your heart and say, like you're holding a kid in your arms and say, I understand that part of me is not on board. What can we do to get on board? And so it's making sure that the child in you is as secure as the adult in you is moving towards where you want to go. And another level of this, and I remember writing this in the book, is that when you experience fear, it's also the universe saying to you, you're about to go into a moment. So whenever you think about a moment, you go, oh, I have a fearful response. The reason your inner child is having a little bit of a freak out and a resistance is because it's also your intuition's way of saying, you're going to go into that moment and something unexpected is going to happen that's going to create a really interesting healing, and you're going to come out the other end spectacular. But just to let you know, the thing you're afraid of is going to be an unexpected moment of healing, trigger, and expansion. And as a co-creator, could you imagine the power that says, I'm always open to what the universe wants to show me. I don't think right now, today, when I feel this fearful response when thinking of the grocery store, I don't know if today is the day that I choose to have to go through that. I accept that if I don't choose it today, it's going to come back at a different day. But I think I need a little day off from the holy you-know-what level of healing I keep going through. So fear is a way of the universe saying, by the way, if you go here, it's going to stimulate a very deep level of healing. As a co-creator, you say, I'm going to take a personal day. Maybe next Tuesday, you bring that holy shit experience to me. But the fear is letting me know there is an intense moment of healing that's about to happen. And sometimes we actually have the honor and privilege of saying, I'm going to set this one out. And as spiritual beings, we don't give ourselves that right because we think we have to always rise to the occasion, which is a really weird ego trip. Right? I have to always rise to the occasion. No, I can do this. I have it within me. I got it. The greatest thing we could learn to do is to tune in and go, you know what? My resilient mind always wants to be up for it. But you know what? My nervous system just can't handle it right now. And a true surrendered being knows the difference between what they want and what they need and is serving the nervous system, not the desire. Yeah.
So really deciding whether you want to take that holy shit and turn it into a holy shift.
I like that. Amazing. Brandon Beecham, everybody.
Actually, Chris Jackson, everyone.
Oh my
And he
God.
probably stole it from someone else.
But seriously, folks. That's funny. So, but fear is all about nervous system. And there's an old school belief that, oh, things I want don't happen until I overcome things like fear. That's actually the opposite of reality. Reality actually says you're only experiencing all of these nuanced negative experiences to prove to yourself that your light is more powerful than the things in view. And so when you are in a state of fear, the idea is, the impulse is I want to get away from the fear. I understand that. But the reality of it is, what if I actually welcomed fear into my heart and I said, you know what, honey? I'm going to take you with me. And we're going to go in this direction, and we're going to go together and have a little bit of a situation. And I'm going to love you through it, and it's going to be okay. When we do that, we find that nothing, including fear, negativity, resistance, is as or more powerful than your light. And so imagine this old spiritual paradigm where everyone is constantly doing this inner work in the name of making their light more powerful, but all the work's being done from the belief that I have to rid myself of these things because I think they're keeping me from my power. The only thing keeping you from your power are the judgments we have about the things we don't want to experience. And it's self-love, whatever arises, love that. Everything is here to help you, that work together to help you unlock a new spiritual paradigm that says, thank you, fear, for showing me how powerful my light is. You're not here to take away from my experience. I'm actually here as your liberator. And what you find is that the fear you feel is not your fear of discomfort. It's actually you empathing the fear discomfort has for the journey you're on. It's huge. It's a whole flip.
That's wild.
It's wild, man.
So let's talk about fear, fear and intuition.
Oh, yeah.
Right? As in such, powerful intuitive, going to a situation and you're getting the message, don't go to whatever, don't get on that airplane, whatever it is. How do you discern between like, okay, I'm having like a freak out moment and it's fear, ego stuff that's arising versus intuition?
What's interesting for me is that I have experienced things that I call initiations. I have had moments early in my career where I was told, do not do that under any circumstances. And then I didn't do it. I didn't go to the thing. And then I, came out from hiding behind my couch,
Right.
called my friend, did you go to that thing? And it was fine.
Yep,
and I go, well, I was told not to go, so what was that?
Right.
And what it was the universe was testing my ability to listen. Sometimes you will get an intuition that says, do not do this, just to see how closely you'll abide. And that's an initiation. Intuition-wise, when we are aligned in 5D reality, there is not an intuition that says, I should or I shouldn't do this. It's more like, oh my God, I'm thinking of the airport and I'm feeling afraid. That means that there is going to be an unexpected level of inconvenience that is going to trigger my nervous system. The question is, am I up for it? Most of the time, I am up for it. And I don't personally get intuitions that are fear-based of what I shouldn't do.
Right.
So for me, it's just, am I up for it?
Yeah.
I am up. 99% of the time, I am. I'm totally up for it. So hey, bring on the inconveniences.
Great.
And I've learned to befriend inconvenience. I think the most ironic thing is we only want to claim it's a manifestation if it's something really good. And I think what would be really healthy is we also included, I manifested a parking ticket today.
Right.
How cool is that? It wasn't even on my vision board. You know what I mean? So I think that there's an opportunity to really start looking at intuition differently. And intuition is really there not to say what you should or shouldn't do.
Yeah.
But really the question is, what am I here to learn, and how is that helping me become the next greatest version of myself? And am I up for that today? And if I am, here we go.
Right.
And you allow yourself to work with your nervous system to not use intuition as kind of like a superstitious way. I think the way that intuition used to work and the way it works now is very different. That's why a lot of people don't hear their intuition, because it works differently. And I don't think there are truly things that we should or shouldn't do. It's just a matter of, hey, look, if you're in the middle of dark night of the soul, if your adrenals are shot, if your energy is low, if you need to recharge, maybe you're not up for another vision quest today.
Right.
So you have to tune in and decide if I'm up for it. And I think that that's really where we get to become co-creators, where we get to decide, hey, this is going to happen, maybe not today. And then, of course, tomorrow. But we have to really work with the universe and communicate what we need. And I think that that translates into our personal relationships, where equally we want to serve the universe. We're afraid to ask for what we need. And I think we do that in relationships too. And we express to our partners inauthentic versions of ourselves. And we create relationships that don't truly fulfill us. Right. So when we learn to really work with our own nervous systems, we actually create authenticity in our own hearts. And then we become the authentic version of ourselves that can truly create fulfilling bonds with other people.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
You threw out 5D.
Yeah, I did.
Let's talk about.
I said 5D, not 5G. I didn't say 5G. I said 5D.
5G is a 3D thing, right?
It is.
So this is something that I've been really noticing. You know, here in the Mystic Manor, it's such a portal of transformation, and so much magic has been swirling. And I mean, my beer guzzling carpenter friend, who the last person I'd ever think would start having channeling experiences is having those.
Amazing.
It's like I'm seeing like so much of this sort of stuff. I mean, if it can open up for John, it can open up for anyone, wherever he is out there. And it's like, you know, I'm seeing this sort of thing happening all around me. You know, I can think back to years back where I would talk about this sort of stuff, and it's like people would just look at me and be like, and you can probably relate in your early days on your spiritual journey, like, okay, you're crazy, or, you know, the closest connection to me was maybe a book or something, and I'm feeling this stuff so powerfully, and like, I want to share it with everyone I meet, and, you know, because this is my dharma, and, you know, now I look around and my friend, the last person I would expect is start, oh my God, Brendan, I just channeled, like, what, you know, I was hanging out with my higher self and all these things, and it's just so much more of it's coming online. And as someone who's been so tapped in for a long time, I'm curious what your thoughts and perspective are on this, and is this something that's going to become commonplace? Where
absolutely. Well, you know, what's interesting is in the ascension process, you know, when we evolve in consciousness, we call that an awakening. And when awakening happens on a global level, we call it ascension. So ascension is global awakening. And the fact that more people, including John, are channeling and things are happening, it's showing that really consciousness is expanding at a rapid rate. And when we look at the socioeconomic and political landscape of the world, we're not looking at things going to hell. We're actually looking at a world that is trying to hold together an old structure that the energy of awakening is unraveling and decimating. So we have an expansion of consciousness happening at such a rapid rate right now. And what's interesting is we're in a transition where spiritual culture is shifting into human culture. And what's really fascinating is you talked about people looking at you being weird in the spiritual stuff. My journey was I was the weird guy to spiritual people. Woo!
Always gotta one up us, don't you?
You know? I mean, like, I can't even tell you how strange that was. I thought, oh, finally, you know.
King of the weirdos.
My people, and then I got ousted by them. And then, you know, so it's a really, because at every dimension, everything works differently. There are awakenings at every dimension, and there are things that happen that seem contradictory. There's a level where you remember your past lives. I've been here before. I was so-and-so. Then there's a level of consciousness where you wake up out of past lives, where it almost like it never even happened. And if you try to figure out, you're going to go bad. Because it's just at every dimension things work differently. And I came into this field bringing a very clear, different perspective. And what's really, really interesting is that, and this is something I don't say that often, but it's very relevant now. Do you want to know who will have the hardest time ascending? not people who have never been on this path. They actually have it more easy. The hardest people to ascend are already spiritually established people. Because spiritually established people think they know the one way it works. And it works different on all levels.
Right.
So because spiritual culture is becoming human culture, now it's not just the fun things we do in our secret little room as weirdos while the world judges us. Now everyone's pulling angel cards, everyone's saying 1111, and we're going to live in a world where the spiritual people who were taught it worked one way are having to be challenged to see that it actually, in the fifth dimension, works a different way. And how adaptable will spiritual people be to continue to pioneer the journey that illuminates a path for the rest of the world to follow? So people who have never heard of this may have a hell of a time trying to decipher between spiritual awakening and depression. There's that journey. But the spiritual people who have already been briefed on how things work will have to go through a relearning process to go out of the spiritual ego and into the embodiment of unity consciousness.
Wow. It makes sense, though, you know, as we sort of continue to expand, it's like every time you think, you know, the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
100%.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're holding on to something, it's like, I finally got it figured out.
That works.
That's probably the time to start, like, okay, let's reassess.
Let's reassess.
Yeah.
We don't really hold things as concrete truths. It's more of, this works for now. And be open to the fact that at any moment, the meter's going to expire on a dimension, and what worked for you 100% of the time will just stop.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to up-level and up-level and up-level, and just be open to things work one way until they don't.
Yeah.
And just to not limit yourself in thinking this is how it is. Because the density on this planet, the ego that we are feeling that bumps up against this ascension, whether it's a political ego, a spiritual ego, or whatever, the density of the things that cause people to act in such a disrespectful way that have harmed us in the past, that harm other people. These are people that are coming from a point of view that says it works one way. So as spiritual beings, we can't actually be that same vibration in the name of our spiritual beliefs. We have to actually be open-minded enough that says it works in a variety of ways. And the real question is which way appeals to my nervous system and which way puts me into righteousness, and learning to be very discerning.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Be flexible. Like,
Be flexible. Be flexible.
he's got the shimmy down and
I
everything.
got the shimmy down.
Practically.
Single.
In case you didn't hear it the first time,
Single. Single.
there is going to be an after party, too.
Single.
So.
No pressure. I will never leave you.
Not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but
Just kidding.
it's happening.
It's weird. I thought I said that on the inside. So weird. Just kidding.
Oh, aside from finding your twin flame here tonight,
Yes.
what is most alive for you right now? Most present, most exciting? I mean,
Oh, my
in this
goodness.
ever-shifting reality, you're constantly getting new downloads, I'm sure, new perspective shifts. Like, what is most exciting and alive for you right now?
I download about 10 to 15 new teachings a day. I never have enough events for the downloads I download, and so I'm always writing another book and another book because I'm just constantly putting out what comes through me. Consciousness as an energy is broken into two basic extremes. You have the flow of insight, which is wisdom, which is our spiritual path, and you have the flow of creative expression. So I, in my life, am a living transmission of spiritual insight, but I'm also an artist in my life.
Right.
So one of the ways in which I express art is through cooking. And so here I am doing this interview with you, and I'm winding down this year's tour, and I purposely create my life to where I get to be home for the winter. So in Seattle, I get to watch the rainy, sometimes snowy weather, and I get to be at home and cook, create, because in a few years I'll do some cookbooks and stuff.
Hold on, everyone out there.
Spoiler alert.
He cooks too.
Yeah, ladies, you hear that?
This has turned into a pitch.
I cook. Hear that? Yeah, who got the final rose? This guy. That's right. So, you know, for me, what's up is the excitement of being at home and cooking. And I've I recently, 5 weeks ago, went into a plant-based lifestyle, and I did that for digestive reasons, and I've never felt better in my entire life. So for me, the opportunity to wind down 2019 and just spend it at home, cooking and creating, writing poetry, listening to music. And then during that time, I'm also going to write my fourth book. And my third one comes out next year. Wow. So for me, what's alive right now personally is taking some time to really just let my art have some time to play. And I find that when we're truly integrated, balanced spiritual beings, we have to equally be spiritual as we are creative. And what I find is that the spiritual journey is to clear the distractions that gives a voice to the battle cry of the starving artist. And that our spiritual journey is actually where we find the conviction and the strength and the power to unleash our inner artist, and all of the adversities and healing crises we go through is the inner artist trying to be set free. So really the spiritual journey is the resolution of an artistic crisis. This planet is not having a spiritual crisis. This planet is having an artistic crisis, and it is spiritual ascension that is saving this planet by unleashing the artist in every heart.
Yeah. Wow.
Thank you. Yeah.
So if you've ever said, I'm not an artist.
You are.
You are.
If you said you're not an artist, look at the thought you just created. That's pretty clever.
Right.
But there's an artist in all of us. I cook, I write poetry. All of us are artistic in some way. And all you have to do is put yourself in a position that says, what comes through me is right. What comes through me is right, instead of considering, is it good? And you just have to not try to make sure it's something that other people approve of. You have to make sure it's the thing that satisfies you. And what happens, because we're all connected through the laws of unity consciousness, we're all interconnected through the quantum field. When you bring something to life that satisfies you, then the audience you attract is but a magnified reflection of the fulfillment you created for yourself.
Right.
So the true artist fulfills the audience in their heart, and then over time, people get out of what an artist brings through as a reflection of that inner satisfaction.
Yeah. That's such a powerful share. As
Thank you.
You know, someone who pursued music many years ago, and I remember our early journey was so fun and powerful, and just it was some, you know, just the best memories. And then getting along further into our journey, and we started playing with these other bands that went on to be massive, and you know, all this other success. And okay, now hold on, now we've got to make it somewhere, and we need more validation from out there. Whereas in the early days, it was just this like childlike innocence of creating.
Right.
And so it's such a powerful thing to realize. And when I approached differently many years later, launching a podcast, it's like, okay, I'm doing this for me.
Totally.
And if one person benefits, I'm a success. And I know I'm going to benefit because we teach best what we most need to learn. Right. I'm just getting into vibrational alignment with the things that I want to hear, and you know, rewire my own neural network, right? And if no one listens, it's a win. And I approached it with that, and of course, bam, resonance. You know, people feel that.
Authenticity.
The authenticity, right? Not doing it for the wrong reasons.
It's really kind of amazing, and I think that's the purpose of the vision quest nature of our spiritual journey. Is you have to be stripped of your comforts, you have to be stripped of your attachments, you have to be stripped of your worldly view, because only when you've been stripped of everything can you start to come into connection to the thing life wants to birth through you. And when we're true to that journey, and we're truly willing to birth what wants to come through us without attachment to how it looks, how people are going to perceive me, is it good, will they like me, will they like me? Will they super duper like me, do they like me on Facebook?
Enough to be your new partner at the end of this?
Or my new ex, at least.
Right.
I mean, that'd be fine.
Divorcee.
You know, so when we're able to when we're able to surrender to art, not try to control it or manipulate it, which is the same relationship people have with spiritual journey.
Yep.
Can you surrender to the inner calling to be stripped of all that you know, so that you can be so decisively undone that you create enough space for genius to enter the planet as never before? Yeah, that's the real invitation. And we cultivate spiritual awareness to have the capacity, the strength, and the self-love to say, I don't know what this is, but I'll love myself through it. And because I'm going to be here with me, all is well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whew. In a moment here, we're going to bring out the retreat guests that have been here at the Mystic Manor for the week, and they're going to ask a question or
Sure.
share a little bit about their journey. But before we do,
Yeah.
I have one last thing that I'd like to ask of you. And is there, what is it that, if there's one thing that bubbles up for you that you could share with the audience listening right now, that you feel is the most pertinent, Matt Kahn magic that you could sprinkle upon the audience? What would
If I could say one thing to everybody. You know what? It's funny. The spiritual journey, if you know where it leads you, it's only going to lead you to becoming your most mature self. And what's amazing is the journey that takes you into greater maturity requires great maturity to get through. So this is why the journey is so difficult, because it's not about trying to get what you want. It's not that when you don't get what you want, life's not listening to you. It's not that you have to prove to yourself you're powerful by getting what you want. It's truly a matter of the way I was taught life works doesn't work any longer. This doesn't work. It's difficult. I can't hold this all together. And no matter what I do or don't receive, I can't stand living believing I'm this small when I was born to expand into my natural state of bigness. So I think we have to get to a point that says, look, I'm on a journey. I don't know where this is going. It's going to make me more mature, and it takes great maturity to see that journey through. And if we start honoring our choices with the most maturity, like, okay, here's a choice. Why am I doing this? How is this a celebration of my highest values? Knowing that even when there's something you want that isn't coming, or there's a frustration, or there's a sense of anger for a betrayal, or whatever happens to you, it is truly only happening to make you the best version of yourself. But self-love is essential to get you through this into greater maturity and resilience instead of brokenness and resentment and bitterness. Right. So I think that if we really understand this is truly the most mature spiritual path human beings have ever been on, and that we as a first wave of ascension are truly exploring a path that most of the world would run away from and develop addictions to hide from, that we are truly doing the most courageous work in the history of our civilization, and that we should truly respect that in a way that allows us to go into the unknown and love ourselves every step of the way.
Well said, my friend.
Thank you.
Now it is time for me to call in a little backup.
Unveil the people.
Unveil the people. We're going to have this week's Mystic Manor guest. Give it up, everyone. Come on down.